This is Marketing Uncomplicated. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today I have Brandi, who spent most of her career in management and leadership roles at Magnolia Gardens Nursery, a family business with over 150 employees. As a next-generation family member in a family-owned business, Brandi understands the delicate and at times challenging situations that can face family businesses. Brandi has experience developing strategic plans, leading departments, and managing capital expenses. She's comfortable with complicated financials and the nuances of organizational structure. Super important, guys, no matter what business you're in. However, her passion lies with the people. I love this comment. Organizations excel when the people within thrive, and Brandi is driven to bring out the best in them. As a teacher and a leader, she loves to help people with their potential as empowered leaders who are confident in their abilities. So good to have you on, Brandi. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yes. So I wanted to dive in a little bit and kind of set the stage. So you've spent most of your career inside a family business, which is the Magnolia Gardens that we just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your earliest lessons about leadership from this experience?
Well, there are plenty.
Yeah.
I have had
I love
that. Navigating challenging conversations, navigating how to, balancing relationships between family from a personal perspective and from a business perspective. That can be very challenging. And then also balancing between how do you managing people in your business that are not family members in the business can also present some very interesting challenges as well, in terms of you want to be cognizant and aware that your own family drama is not coming into the business. But then sometimes people can tend to think, oh, this is a family business, so like the rules are different, and you're just constantly battling, and it almost feels like an internal conflict between like wanting to do the right thing as a human, but also recognizing that you have to run a business. What does that look like? It's very, very challenging. So now I currently work, I'm a business advisor with Ferguson Alliance, and we specialize strictly in family-owned businesses. So helping them get aligned with their strategy, with their team, with their succession planning. Where do they want the business to go? So really leveraging my experience with my own family to help other businesses that were kind of in our shoes and facing some of the struggles that we were facing. So that's really my passion now, is helping other people just like me, help them feel less alone and help them get on track.
Yeah, and like just continue to thrive. I love that it kind of is going full circle for you, where you've taken the learnings from the family business and now you're injecting it to support others so that they maybe don't necessarily make the same mistakes, or that they can really learn from the mistakes that you've made to thrive. So tell us a little bit about that, just so that we can sidetrack from the full circle giving back before we dive fully in.
Yeah, totally. It's one of those things where unless you have built up a very specific network, there's not a lot of people that can truly understand where you're coming from, either as a business owner or as someone having family that's working in a business. So, being able to say, like, I totally understand you. I have a lot of friends that have, really cool and important jobs. And they would at times look at me and go like, yeah, but like you get to make your own schedule. You have all of this flexibility. And sure, from the outside, that probably looks, to be the case. But then you're like, yeah, but also like at the end of the day, like it all literally goes home with you. So, really being able to tell someone, I know exactly what you're feeling. I know exactly where you've been. it can really go a long way, I think, to just to have someone see you for what you're going through or what you're dealing with.
Oh, 100%. I love that you said, to have somebody see you and know what you're going through, I think is so key. Are there specific like processes and protocols that you bring in to kind of to help them, build that aspect? Walk us a little bit through that, because I have no idea what that's about. And maybe there are some things, that other listeners who are in a different industry can take these learnings and kind of inject it in their business, I'm sure.
Yeah. So typically most of our client engagements start with an assessment. And we are assessing all the things. We're assessing the tangible things that you would think, like the viability of the business, financial reporting, things like that, the things that you would think about. But then what really differentiates us and sets us apart is that we are also assessing sometimes the psychological component of things, the desires for the owners of the business and maybe the family members that are working in the business, like truly what do they want? Do they want to continue working in this business? Do they have different visions for the strategy? Where are they aligned? Where are they unaligned? With our goal, really recognizing like, hey, what do they want the legacy of the business to be? What do they want for themselves personally? And how do we help them get as much of this as possible?
Yeah.
So it starts off very sometimes intense, right? I mean, it can be a slow process because we're talking about, sometimes things that they don't want to say out loud, or they're too afraid to address or confront. So we really, again, try to be this conduit and this safe place of, hey, let's help you get this figured out so that you can really live a life that you're meant to live, right? Life's not about being stressed forever. How do you get to a place to where you can enjoy, what you're doing? So our process really starts by identifying, look, this is where you're at. This is where you're saying that you want to go. Here's all the gaps that exist between here and the future that we feel like you need to address.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Until now, actually, I had never heard, of this alliance and really that support that can be provided. And I think that's wonderful. I mean, we need more of those type of communities across the board. So well done for, really kind of building that forward. I want to take a step back in terms of when we first, jumped on the podcast and you were talking about, leadership from the heart, and, in the bio, there was mention constantly about, the people aspect, the people, how do we focus on that? Because it really draws in from what is happening on the inside that really appears on the outside. And that appears anywhere from your customer service, from how, people purchase from you, your retention, people coming back to you. And I love that because it is really, 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 really important. And one company that I really like to talk about, and maybe because I'm a customer myself, but it's 1-800-CONTACTS. And I cannot tell you, I have never called them and had a bad person that was on the phone or anybody that's been in a bad mood. I mean, it's just, and it keeps me coming back and wanting to purchase from them. So what drew you specifically to the people side of business rather than just staying focused on operations and finance?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is just my personality in general. I am a people person. I enjoy people. I enjoy different types of people, understanding what their strengths are, how to leverage them the most. Some of my core values really center around purpose and fulfillment, and, life is long, but it's really short. And so, if you had a choice every day when you wake up, you probably wouldn't choose to go to work, but it is a necessity for a lot of people. And so how can we make it as enjoyable as possible? How can we create an environment that is making people feel fulfilled, feel purposeful, feel valued, and how then they translate that to the customer, to the vendors, to the other stakeholders in the business, to the community, to potential future employees. It's literally like, you can have the best processes documented, you can have the best equipment, but if you do not have the people driving that, you're not going to be the leader for very long. And so I agree. You've got to have enthusiastic people.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And I can totally hear it in your passion, Brandi, like that's just, it's fantastic, to have that come out. And it's just, it's beautiful really, because a lot of companies don't really focus on that. And it really stems from the leadership down, 100%. So let's dive more into the family dynamics, as you kind of broached on a little bit in the beginning. But working with family can be rewarding, but as you mentioned, it can also be tricky. And it's not even just the side of like being an entrepreneur, where it's like people are like, oh, you have your own family business. It's not as stressful as a 9 to 5, but it's like, it is, because it is your life, and it's a constant, how do we think about this? It could be conversations at the dinner table, because you have folks that are, with you at your 9 to 5, at your business. What's one moment that really tested your ability to balance personal and professional relationships?
No, this is a good question.
Maybe there's many, but what really stuck with you in your mind?
There are many. Yeah. It's I wouldn't say it was one moment, but it was a period of time where, and it was for several months. And I'll preface this by saying my family was a former client of Ferguson Alliance. So that's how, working through the process, that is how I essentially exited the business and started with Ferguson Alliance, going on now 4 years ago. So there was about, it was about a 4-month period where it was evident and clear that we were all not aligned on what we wanted for the future, both for ourselves personally and for the business. And so we were really just at this point where we knew for sure that our family relationships were what was most important to us. And we knew for sure that some of our professional interactions were getting in the way of that. And so we were really like putting our stake in the ground to say, hey, our family relationship is what is most important to us. And so that being said, what does each of us need in order to keep that true? And so for me, myself, I said, I think for me, the thing I need the most is to have a career outside of this. And that was very, very hard. It was hard to say that out loud. You feel like you have this obligation to uphold. We have, the business has over 150 employees now. So that feels just like a huge weight of responsibility. And you're thinking like, what are they going to think if I leave? Or are they going to be like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? So you have all of these things that you're taking into consideration. And again, these are not usually things that people that just work in an organization have to deal with. And they can have long lasting impacts on everything for your future. And you don't want to do something that you regret, and you want to be just very mindful. So that 4-month period of really discovering that, having the ability to say it out loud, and then make plans and really like actionize on it. And there were times when I was like, oh, like, I don't know, like, okay, I was just kidding. Like, maybe that wasn't what I wanted. Just going through that roller coaster, and also still having to like do your daily duties of like You actually do have a job where you're operating a business. So
absolutely.
That is, I would say, the real time period that just like sticks out to me the most as one of the more challenging ones is just not everyone being on the same page and like having to
balance.
Really address your differences. Yeah.
What with the alliance that you're working with, is there a through line that comes up that's almost like very clear and evident in terms of, what they're dealing with from, and it could be not necessarily like family conflict, but it's just, something to do with the operational internal structure or so on and so forth. But what are the like main sort of, not differences, the main kind of like similarities, if you will, between the companies that you've noticed from working through this?
Yeah. So I will say, for the most part, everybody is tackling the same challenges, just in different ways. So the things that we see the most are strategy alignment. So either, a lot of times it's like one generation, another generation are now leading the business, or one generation's preparing to kind of take over. And so a lot of times it's a misalignment on the strategy. We see that a lot. Sometimes it's stagnation, which is leading to financial problems. Maybe their tried and true way of doing things is not working anymore, or it's not market relevant anymore. And they're maybe afraid to hire in outside perspective. And so they're just experiencing financial challenges and they don't know what to do. Or there's communication issues. So again, just misalignment in general around communication, and then understanding the roles of the family. How they're going to operate within the business. Sometimes then you've got family members that don't want to operate in the business, but also still want a piece of the pie. How do you handle that? So I would say those are the kind of the top
interesting
issues that we routinely see when we're working with organizations
across the board. Very interesting. You talk a lot about surviving as a middle manager in family business. What is that role? I mean, why is that role so often overlooked or misunderstood?
Well, especially in family business, it's hard because oftentimes the middle managers are it's a makeup of two different types. You've got outside family members that are maybe like subject matter experts. They've got the expertise. They're working within the business. And then oftentimes you've got one or two, maybe like next generation family members in one of those roles, trying to kind of work their way up throughout the organization. So you've got that dynamic going on. And then this middle manager often is getting the feedback from the top. So be it, an executive leadership team, or the family members, or a board of directors, some sort of, higher position. And then they're managing, this group of team members. And so they oftentimes see both perspectives. They're understanding, where the shareholders are wanting to go and what they're wanting to do, but they're also sympathizing with the people on their team to say like, yeah, this is not ideal. And like, how do we get this better? So they essentially start to, at times, can feel like they're in this vice of not really knowing, kind of, it can feel like a lose-lose, right? Like, no matter what I do, somebody's going to be upset. How do I deal with this? What do I do? In an unhealthy organization, sometimes what we see is that the shareholders are not, they're not open to listening to the feedback of those middle managers around what the team members need, or where they think that the business should go, or what they think that they should do. And this is also just present in a lot of organizations that aren't specifically family-owned business, but you, again, add the family in there and it just creates this other level of complication. And you're like,
yes.
So that can be hard, especially for the non-family members to balance. Like, I don't want to make you mad, but also like, we need to move forward on this. So that's hard.
Yeah, that's a really good explanation. Thank you for that. What have you seen work well when it comes to empowering teams without stepping on toes then? Like, especially when toes belong to the family members.
So we always encourage, and I think it goes a long way, encouraging to, as much as you feel comfortable, sharing financial information with people on your team.
Yeah.
Because they need to understand how and why what they're doing affects results. They need to understand what the goals are of the organization. So that's going to get you the best possible chance of affecting any kind of change in your people and the way that they work. So I always encourage that. You don't have to share all the nitty gritty, but at a minimum, and even if you want to put it into percentage points of just like understanding what the goal is, what the target is, and why it's important. That's the biggest thing for teams, because people want to know why it is they're doing what they're doing. And again, if you want them to feel fulfilled and purposeful, they're going to want to know what it is exactly they're making an impact on. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
So sharing financials.
When you guys like come to work, is it like a complete switch off? And maybe you champion this kind of thought, like leadership, like throughout like your discussions with other businesses, but it is like you walk into the office and family is just like later on in the evening, and it's like you are coworkers at that point. Is that sort of like a mindset shift that you guys kind of have instilled?
Well, we at a minimum have a conversation with clients around how they want to approach that. So we ask them, do you want to be a business first family, or do you want to be a family first business? And so the difference there being the business first family, you check the family at the door, leave it in the car, you're here, the decisions that you make are the best decisions for the business, regardless of any impact to any family member or anything like that. The family first business is the opposite of that, right? They're going to really lean heavily into, and this is oftentimes like more of the lifestyle businesses. The business is really existing to create a lifestyle for the family. They're going to really default to hiring family members regardless of experience or maybe of, if they deserve that role or not. This is where you see like the son or the daughter is going to be the one that takes over the business regardless of experience or desire, right? So that's the family first business. There's no necessarily right or wrong. It's all, again, what is aligning with what you want the most? What's going to provide the best results for your family, and what that looks like. And so then that gives you this kind of checkpoint to say like, okay, this is what we said that we were going to do. And either we're aligning with that or we're not aligning with that right now. And it gives you this kind of area where you can always come back to and start your conversation from. And so if you, choose the business first family route, you can say, look, like this position's open now, and being a business first family, we're going to open this job up. Your, family member, you're encouraged to apply, but there's going to be an interview process. We're going off of qualifications. And so it's at that point more of a cultural thing, but it's hard. I mean, my family chose.
It is hard.
My family went the business first route. And man, there were some times when your home self wants to take over and just say like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
yes.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, because
Yeah.
even with, how shall I say, you know, let's say my mother works at a big enterprise company, and then she hires me as her daughter. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people could look at it who aren't family members, that if you get promoted, it's like nepotism, or, mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you get promoted? Because you're good at what you do. So it's almost like a double-edged sword, right?
Right. Yes. And you're constantly like, at least for me, I was just always like in my mind thinking like, how is this coming across? How, I oftentimes would like introduce myself to people and not say my last name because I didn't, and I kind of prided myself. We had a vendor and like, I knew her for like 4 years, and for the longest time, she was like, I had no idea that this was your family. I'm like, great, then it's working. Because I was so focused on, I wanted it to be like so merit based.
And separated.
Yeah. I probably did it like to the extreme, but
yeah, that's great. I mean, if somebody didn't notice, that's your goal has been achieved. Check.
Yeah.
What are some non-negotiables when trying to create a culture of excellence inside the family operation? So, I mean, I think you're kind of touching on a little bit of it, but mm-hmm. let's kind of like bring it full circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you have to, for me, I think some non-negotiables around that is being able to have some conflict resolution or being able to have challenging conversations. That really, you have to be able to move through those in order to get to the other side. Oftentimes we see cultures wrecked by the things that are left unsaid. And so addressing those as quickly as possible and creating an environment where people feel comfortable doing so is probably just priority number one. Number two is having a strategy. If you don't know where you're going, you don't know when you get there. So having a strategy, having a plan, having an outlook on what it looks like, because also too, people then use their minds to fill in the gaps. And sometimes that can be beneficial and sometimes that can be detrimental. So having a plan and knowing where you're going. And then people, focusing on people, understanding what they need, where they're coming from. Are you communicating effectively? That's going to make all the difference.
For sure. Just going back, because I think that this is an important part within leadership, specifically also, when you're in family business, and I think this dynamic doesn't really matter, but, a lot of the times, mastering delegation is a big component, right? To like all the systems that you talk about. And even with this alliance, company, because how are you going to set up systems for growth when delegation isn't 100% there? So what is your favorite framework or habit when mastering delegation? I mean, even because a lot of the times it's the concept of, I can get this done faster, but then it's like, why did you hire somebody? And what time are you taking away from yourself that you could be doing in terms of growing the business, that you've hired somebody to do the job and you're not effectively kind of, pushing that onto them?
Yeah. Well, in family business specifically, the first challenge we see is actually them just hiring the person. Oftentimes they have started the business, they have done all the things, right? They were the salesperson and they were also the AR and the AP, and they're very slow to add people to the team, or they think like, oh, that's a big expense. I can do that in the evenings. I can do that on the weekends. I'll catch that up. So number one is just getting them to hire some people is huge.
Yeah.
Then it is realizing, again, what are your goals? Like, do you want to sell the business eventually? Well, then you really do need to be mindful of how involved are you in the business. That's going to affect the value of your business. If you're the main thing that's keeping it running, then your business isn't going to be worth very much. So again, having that plan, having that strategy, understanding where do you want to go? Where do you want to take it? It's going to be very hard for you to delegate and know what you need to delegate if you don't know what your end goal is with your time. So knowing
I completely
where
agree.
you need that time and what you're going to do with it. Then then the more nuanced, kind of things about it are understanding that a lot of times we fear delegation because we think like, oh, like I'm just pushing this off on somebody else. And oftentimes you'll find that people in your organization are going, thank you. I've been waiting for you to just let me do this because I have to wait on you to do it for so long.
And somebody may not have the kind of personality to like speak up about it either,
Yes. Or they may, or you might be putting out the vibe of like, no one can do this as good as me. And so then it is also just kind of checking your ego. Somebody might have a better idea.
Love that. Yeah.
Love that. And like, it will make life so much better.
Love that. Love that. Check your ego. Know thyself, guys.
Yes.
What was the kind of like tipping point? I mean, 150 employees. I mean, you guys are not a small business. What was that sort of tipping point that was the growth spurt for you guys? I mean, what did you guys shift in terms of like your model that really kind of, allowed you guys to take off?
Well, first and foremost, it's just a labor-intensive business. It's a wholesale nursery. So it is it's a people-powered business. So you have to have a lot of people. My father-in-law, he was a visionary. He could identify issues that other nurseries experience, and he was very much like a solution oriented kind of mindset and very entrepreneurial. So it was really thinking about what are issues that businesses face and how to provide solutions for that. So getting into that value proposition mindset of what's going to make someone's life easier, I think was another big driver for that. And again, just really recognizing and knowing your market and knowing what opportunities are out there and what gaps exist. And do you have the ability to fill those gaps? And really being aware and in tune with what that looks like.
Yeah, I love that. Just kind of now moving into sort of some personal reflections, as you've kind of been involved in the business for as long as you've had, but what's something you've changed your mind about when it comes to leadership in the past few years?
Oh, this is a great question. I feel like there are so many things that I've changed my mind about.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, in the beginning of it, so it was my father-in-law that wanted to hire Ferguson Alliance to help us. And in the beginning of that, I was like, seriously? Like, it's like the last thing we need right now. I don't have time to spend with these people. Like, we know what we need to do. We just need to do it. Like, why are we going to pay somebody to tell us what we know that we need to do? Looking back on that, I mean, I don't even recognize that person. because I learned so much about myself, about how to run a business, about how to manage people. I had to check my own ego and really change my own perspective on what it means to seek advice and outside perspective. And so, I mean, that has been, I just like it. It's crazy. Like I just wouldn't be where I am today without that moment, right? I mean, I would likely still just be slogging through all of the pain, and not doing that. So that being open to new experiences, I mean, that's just been probably like the overall arching change. One. Yes. And then I think secondly, you know, as it pertains to people, is just really recognizing that the goal is not to get everyone to be the same. There's no like checklist of strengths. It's really spending the time to understand what everyone brings to the table and recognizing that if they get to do that as much as possible, that everyone's life is going to be easier. They're going to be easier to manage. They're going to be more fired up and engaged in the business. The customers, like everybody's going to feel that. And so I think for a long time I led with this, like, no, if this person is going to be in this role, then they have to be this, 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 and this. And overlooking the glaringly obvious thing is that they need to be them first.
Yes.
And so
I love that. They need to be them first.
Yeah. So like not trying to put them inside this box and this idea of what I think is the best without allowing them to show me their perspective.
Yes, totally. So then in turn, what does success then look like for you with all the work that you do now? I mean, beyond revenue or business performance and
success in terms of like, you mean for myself, or like, how do I know if the work I've done is a success?
I like that you bring up for yourself and the work that you've done, because it's already telling me the direction that you're going in is the preparation of how you have changed as a leader that in turn kind of reflects within the business. So it is a twofold, right? So it's like, what does success look like for you that you're able to translate into the business that then, you know, what, you know, you might have thought of success X amount of years ago now is a different reflection because you yourself are kind of evolving, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally. I mean, I think that, you know, me personally, like my definition of success is really feeling like at the end of the day, I'm proud of what I did and how I did it. And that it's not just some KPI that I've been grading myself against all year or for the quarter. You know, it's not to that degree at that time. Mm-hmm. So, but then, you know, in terms of how do I measure success for a client, you know, I'm definitely, I want to see and feel that the work that I did made a difference. I always feel like the worst thing that could happen with a client is that, you know, once our engagement's over, once the project is complete, that they just kind of put it on the shelf and they just go back to operating how they were operating before, and not much change has been affected in the organization. So I'm constantly keeping that in my mind when I'm working with a client of like, yeah, you can think about all this theoretical stuff, but if you're not making it applicable and you're not getting them in the mindset of they can do this, then you're essentially not successful at what you set out to do.
Yeah.
because the goal is to affect change.
Yeah.
So
I like that. The goal is to affect change. I really like that. Yeah. It's
constantly in my mind, maybe even to an obsessive place, but I'm constantly so aware of like, okay, are they going to like at the end of this go like, oh, I'm glad we made this investment because we are seeing a difference.
Yeah, I love that. To kind of close that loop out then, what's one action a listener could take today that would improve, how they show up inside their business, like the family dynamics,
Yeah. I think bottom line, like you have to be honest with yourself about what you want, where you're at. Until you can do that, then you're going to be chasing symptoms, but you're not going to be at the root cause of the pain that you're experiencing. If you're not willing to be honest with yourself around what it is that you want, or at least just getting to a place where you're like, I don't know what I want, but I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
At least just to that place. I mean, you have to take that first step. And that's always a question that we have for clients when we start working with them is like, do you recognize that this is going to be hard and this is going to be challenging? And there's not a one size fits all prescription for what you're experiencing. Like, there's going to be a lot of work around how to get there. So it's really just like, are you ready to do the work? Okay, great. Because if you're not, then like no problem. But it's only going to work if you're ready to do the work. And so just being honest with yourself around that and what you want.
Yeah. No,
you have to think about that first.
I love that. Brandi, this has been super insightful and really rich in terms of, delivery. So thank you for that,
Thank you.
Yeah. But before I let you go, I always like to do these kind of rapid fire questions with all my guests.
Okay, let's do it.
Whatever comes to mind, just, answer. Yep. We'll just roll with it. What's one word your team would describe you?
Loud.
Loud can be very good. It doesn't have to mean negative, guys. Like, I love that.
That's just the first word that came to mind.
I love that. Well, I really just want to unpack that a little bit. I love that.
Yeah. I have a loud laugh. I have no whisper. Like,
isn't that the Texas in you though?
That could be a little bit of that as well.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I love that. That's awesome. Most underrated trait in a great leader.
Most underrated trait in a great leader. Vulnerability.
I think that's with everything in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. In any relationship you have. Leadership, personal, family, romantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Delegation, love it or hate it. We talked about this.
Love it.
Okay, good.
Love it.
Good. What's harder, giving up control or giving tough feedback?
Giving up control.
Yeah, it's so true. It goes to the delegation portion, right? And like the whole conversation that we had about ego.
Yes.
Yeah. This has been awesome, Brandi. I really appreciate it. We're going to link all the details below of how folks can find you, LinkedIn, your store, the work that you're doing with the Alliance. So we'll definitely link all of that so people can get in contact with you and, maybe potentially work with you if they hear the episode.
Yeah. Awesome. Totally.
I love it.
Thank you so much.